pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today is May 23rd, 2016. I have a roll call, please.
Aaron's? Here. Burrows? Whaling?
Here.
Coleman?
Here.
Basil?
Here.
Meyer? Here.
We have the minutes of May 9th. Is there any additions, changes, corrections? If not, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion made and there's a second. Any questions of that motion? Roll call.
Aaron's? Yes. Whaling?
Abstain.
Coleman?
Yes.
Basil?
Yes.
Meyer? Yes.
Clerk's report.
Only thing I have is the tax income received since the last meeting, $127,264.27.
Anyone from the audience wish to address the board? Finance Administration, Trustee Meyer.
An actuarial study was completed for the police department. The purpose of the enclosed report was to determine the unfunded liability if and when the sworn officers were moved from IMRF to Downstate Police Pension Fund. When the village has a population of 5,000 or more, it would be required to set up a 5-member police pension board consisting of 2 members chosen by the police officers, 1 member representing retirees, and 2 members chosen by village president. All officer and employer IMRF contributions would be converted to a new pension fund controlled by this new board. The report states that the village would be able to transfer $276,789 into the new fund from IMRF, but would still be $235,559 short on day 1 of the new fund to have sufficient funding to pay $2,730,004 in unfunded pension liability. The current unfunded liability with IMRF is about $500,000, so this is a significant increase. The officers will pay 9.91% of their wages into the fund compared to the current contribution rate of 4.5%. Currently, the village pays 11.62% of gross wages, but with a new fund, this would require a contribution of 41.69% of payroll in the first year, or an additional $139,500 per year more than what it currently pays now. The pension contribution alone will consume 100% of the current sales tax agreement reimbursement. Other communities underfund these pensions and do not pay the appropriate amounts into them, which is why they're in deep financial trouble. This report will be used in future financial planning. We're at
4,359. There is legislation out there that's being strongly opposed by the unions, which would increase that population to 10,000 from 5. We're going to try again next year. There was actually a bill that was introduced, but it got shot down.
Alrighty. Next, we're consider a motion authorizing a request for proposal for a short-term loan to finance Phase 2 design of Beecher WWTP. Enclosed is an RFP being recommended by the Finance Committee, and the only question remaining is how many banks should be approached for a loan. Do we just want to do Beecher banks? Do we want to stretch out to Crete, Peatone, other areas? Anybody have any thoughts on that?
What was recommendation from Finance Committee?
Just the 2 banks.
Okay, so I will make a motion authorizing a request for proposal for a short-term loan to finance Phase 2 design of the Beecher WWTP.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Any questions of the motion? Roll call.
Meyer?
Yes.
Basil?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Whaling?
Yes.
Aaron's? Yes.
Consider a letter notifying residents of changes to Commonwealth Edison's electrical rate, which will make it lower than the village's current contract price with Homefield Energy. There's an enclosed letter. All residents are entitled to opt out, and that's what the letter explains. We're going into the 3rd year of a 3-year contract with Homefield. The pricing has fallen so quickly due to an oversupply of oil flooding the market that the short-term open market electrical rates have plummeted below our long-term fixed price. Residents have to take the action themselves and call Homefield in order to switch back to ComEd pricing to take advantage of 0.8% approximately pricing difference. The reduction is estimated to save residents about $60 through September 2017, but they must make the switch themselves. How to advise residents of this decision of the board, special letter or special newsletter, letter to the editor, website post, or combination thereof. Will County Governmental League is willing to use its staff for any questions regarding the switchover, and all we have to do is refer residents to them.
Now, this is home field, correct? Because I know you get a ton of calls from electric companies, you know?
Everybody.
I think people are gonna be really confused, as far as, you know, who to go to. But I think the word should go out
Yeah.
to the residents
It
about
is,
this
yeah.
home line.
My opinion was, we told the residents about what we were doing before, and now we should tell them what they should do. Again, whether or not it's entirely up to them, I think we have an obligation. Bob came up with some accommodation suggestions.
Yeah, I think we put the letter on the website, and then send out a Nixle community alert, not a red alert. And the smartphone app, push, tell them, please look at the website, read the letter regarding new comment rates, or whatever, how we word that short-term text. We could send out a newsletter to all the residents, but that costs us over $1,000. And I don't know if that, I think word of mouth, if we put something on Facebook, the Beecher Facebook page, saying, please check the village's website regarding the change in electric rates.
You might wanna add a comment, you know, to let older citizens know about it as well. Because there's a whole bunch of residents that don't have access to Facebook or even a
Right.
computer.
There was one more to that, you're also gonna see if there was enough space to put a comment on the water bill.
Not a big enough one next one, anything more.
Just like,
We get two very short lines.
check our website for energy rates, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know, people don't read those forms.
It's a great idea, it came out with the rates.
If you keep
You
it
could
real
put,
short.
you could put a letter to the editor in the Beecher Herald,
Yeah.
or even a public notice in the Beecher Herald. But see, the public notices in the Beecher Herald now go in the back of the paper. The old days, they were in the front of the paper. So you have to actually dig through those legals to find it. But maybe they would print that as a courtesy for the people that don't have.
Yeah, how about when they come in to pay their bill? Because I know a lot of the older,
We could put the letters at the front
put
counter.
the letters at the front counter. Yeah.
That's good.
The $1,000 for the newsletter cost, is that mostly for the printing of it? And,
It
I
was
mean, I know there's mailing costs, but,
$585 for printing and $465 for the mailing. And we
so I
took
was gonna
those,
say you could do a letter too, which is, you know.
and we took those numbers off of the one-page newsletter we did on the half-point sales tax. That's what cost us to do that. So we figured this could be the same, we did the one page.
We could post this on at the post office too.
Yeah, there's bulletin boards there.
Because I know a lot of people stop there and read.
I think Walt's has a spot too, you can put stuff up.
Between the
Yeah, between the sale papers.
How about the sign over by the nursing home? Can we put something up there?
That's a chamber sign, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, we've asked, we all I can do is say no.
And if you wanna do a newsletter, we can. It doesn't really matter to me, it's notification for residents.
Okay, anybody?
That ends my report.
What's your recommendation, do the whole thing?
I only have a concern, like you're saying, about elderly people who don't get their information. I mean, probably 85% of the town would get the information electronically, but
A
not
large
everybody.
portion of our seniors do pay their water bills in person though, and we could make sure as they walk in that we hand them a letter.
Okay.
Even if they go through the drive-through, you know, stick a letter in the slot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the switch over from ComEd to Homefield was done without their involvement. Now to opt out, they have to do it, and it's gonna be very difficult for these older people to understand what's going on.
Right.
What if they wanna save $60 for the next 12 months, that's what you have to do. They did save $400 the first 2 years of the contract, but now we have a chance to opt out and save another $60 on those.
Well, the past several months, we've been losing out on that, past 4, 5, 6 months.
We've been about even to a little bit behind, but now it's really gonna go behind with the new auction rates that just opened up in the last, 30 days? They go to
I didn't
July.
switch, so I don't know, I stayed with ComEd.
I mean, even.
Over the long haul, you probably lost money over the last 3 years, but right now you're making some of it back.
as you can tell, since the governmental league is offering their staff at their meeting, they were point blank saying, tell everybody to go back. It's just the way it is. So I'm getting the impression from everybody that you want to do a combo, do it every way possible without going doing the mailing. Right.
And now that concludes my report.
Public Buildings and Properties, Parks and Recreation, trustee Whalen.
Okay, the Beecher Rec concession stand is up and running. I don't believe there's anything else that we need to get over there, right, Bud?
Not to my knowledge.
I know they have the refrigerators in there, and they have the sign outside, and, you know, it seems like there's a line out with a concession stand, so it looks like it's working well. So, last update as far as the 4th of July building.
4th of July building will be done tomorrow. Beecher Rec can start moving into their portion. 4th of July is building shelves and moving into their portion.
Okay. We're gonna leave that other building up for now,
I don't remember, we
After the
discussed it
4th,
too
right?
amongst us, we said till after the 4th.
after the 4th. Okay. Condition of Wildenstead Park, I know this comes up every year.
Really, it shouldn't be too bad. We've brought all new stone out to the roads there. We've brought limestone out. We've mowed it 3 different times. I had a crew out there today. The crew was split in 2. They're power raking the girls softball field. It's been sprayed for weeds around all of the fencing, and the fields themselves have been sprayed and fertilized.
Okay.
So the last 2 weeks, you know, had a couple windows of opportunity. I believe they will be going in there and finishing up to the best that they can, you know, for the years. And then also we're gonna be doing is mowing it.
Okay. All right, thanks, buddy. That ends my report.
Planning, Building and Zoning, trustee.
Consider an ordinance granting an expansion special use permit for the volleyball pit at Pin and Tonic at 643 DC Highway. After posting mailing notifications, conducting a public hearing, no comments were provided. The PCC unanimously recommended approval of the expansion special use permit for the beer garden to include a sand volleyball pit under the same terms and condition of the existing special use in addition to the volleyball pit only being open from 8 to 11. And the police reserves the right to address excessive noise levels. See the enclosed material. Did anybody have any comments or questions?
There was one comment that came up from a trustee after the last meeting, even though we did not bring it up, stating that the times for the volleyball pit seemed to exceed the times granted for the beer garden. And probably what happened there is the PZC for the beer garden recommended a certain time, but you guys dropped everything down now. So this trustee said what the PZC recommended was the same conditions that they put on the beer garden for the volleyball pit, but the beer garden hour changed when you guys voted on it as a special use. So that's one of the reasons the attorney is here tonight, in case we have to make a change on the fly. We can change the times in conformance with the actual operation of the beer garden. I'm trying to find a conflict. I want to say it was 10 o'clock for the beer garden, but 11 for the,
I thought I had seen midnight on weekends and 10 for Sunday through Thursday.
That's what it says.
It was 11 o'clock, they called, sound amplification stops and it had to be closed by midnight. Jack Zipper.
Yes, that's,
Oh.
yes.
Some of the concerns that I think I'll bring them up for discussion. After the planning and zoning made the recommendation from some of the trustees that corresponded with me, and they want to identify themselves tonight, they can, there was a concern that the hours were too late. There's 3 areas that basically are gonna cause a red flag. You've got the alcohol, which has to be addressed. You have the noise level, which has to be addressed. And then you have the lighting, which has to be addressed, which all saying has beer garden. So those, in the discussions that I've had with trustees, those are still a concern for the volleyball court. And if the attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, right now, without him building anything on his property, he could put up a volleyball tent, a volleyball net, and he can have volleyball games as long as those 3 areas of concern are not violated. Alcohol, noise, or lighting. And lighting would probably be only if somebody complains, noise would only be if somebody complains. But he can have a volleyball game every night, there's nothing prohibiting
Jack, do you have any plans to light this volleyball for nighttime games?
Not right away, I mean, but we would like to eventually get some LED lighting down onto it so they could stay a little later at night. I mean, during the summer months, I don't see games going late at night at all, because it's just getting it started and off the ground. And next year, and we've seen if we've had any problems or concerns. I don't think we've disappointed you with the beer garden at all. And everything's been, you know, we followed the rules and shut the lights off, and even had people, come on, you can stay a little longer. No, that's what it is.
The only, two other things that I was asked whether there were any complaints. There have been no complaints to the police that I'm aware of. The only noise that we heard were addressed amongst ourselves where we heard it, and then at that time, then I did contact Jack at the last meeting. At planning and zoning, Jack did admit that there was one band that he was aware of. It was a charity event, if I remember.
Right, we had 3 bands that day. The last band was one of those grunge music bands. It was horrible. As soon as they started playing, it was too loud. I said, turn it down. And then they went right back and cranked it up, and I pulled the plug on them. So it only lasted for about 15 minutes, and I shut them off. I wouldn't let it go. I didn't want to listen to it.
Are you planning on doing any landscaping around that fence on the outside?
What kind of landscaping are you looking at?
I don't know, just something to break up the solid fence.
Well, I mean, we're gonna paint the fence this year, but,
Okay.
we have some wood chips and stuff on the inside. I'm sure we could probably do a little on the outside. I'm just trying to avoid something that's gonna collect weeds and start growing weeds, that it's too hard to maintain.
Right, is this for leagues? Or you
We
just-
wanna try and start leagues, but we also wanna have people, if they wanna come and play volleyball, they can come and play volleyball. It's kinda like the way we do the beanbags. We do some beanbag leagues, and then people come out and play all the time on their own when there's no leagues playing. And it's just to supplement the summer business. Bowling goes way down in the summer. Tonight, we're actually they're here from out of state. They're gonna start refinishing all the lanes, sand them all, retreat them, revarnish them. So that's a pretty expensive endeavor too, but it hasn't been done in about 10 years. They need it. And they got a lot of play last year, fortunately, so they finally got a full stack of leagues back, and we got 5 nights a week of bowlers and a Sunday afternoon on top of that. And we're gonna try and go after a few other things this fall for younger people. We got a couple certified instructors that are now involved in the place that do youth certifications and for training. And so we're gonna start offering some kids programs for that as well. So it was a pretty good year. I think we kind of brought the place back.
Another suggestion is maybe would you be willing not to have lighting? So that way you have like a back doorway and basically your games would end at dusk.
Yeah, maybe not lighting for playing purposes, but we just have to have lighting for cleaning up and picking up at the end of the night. I mean, nothing, I'm not talking baseball field lights out there, you know. But yeah, if that becomes an issue, absolutely.
So Jack, what time would the leagues would your leagues be time-wise?
They would be evening leagues, probably 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock or so. That's about the times, because people, weeknight leagues, the weekends, they can play during the daytime earlier, obviously.
9 o'clock is a thought, that would be a better way of defining dusk, because dusk changes all the time.
Right.
9 o'clock is the thought that I had, and that would go along with dusk. And again, I don't know, those are some of the suggestions that, again, we talk one-on-one with individuals, that's what's going there.
I like the idea of a specific time rather than dusk, because, you know, every kid that's supposed to come home at dusk and says, oh, it's 11 o'clock, I thought it was dusk.
There's a full moon out there.
I don't think it stays light out till 9 o'clock anyway. You know,
No, for a week maybe, just barely.
So, what,
So what would be your hours again, Jack, during the week and then on the weekend?
You know, I don't know that I could, depending on how people come and wanna play and sign up is how I would start to know that. I mean, I think weeknights would probably be 6 to, sundown. I mean, people aren't gonna be staying out late on weeknights, cause most of the people think I have jobs in this town, go to work every day. And then, the weekends would be more afternoon, early evening and evening, but again, not really late.
If we granted you till 9 o'clock, you would still have the right to come back and ask for night lights or expanded times down the road. We're trying to get over this hurdle of getting
Nine's
funds
fine.
for the volleyball.
I'll give you 9.
All right, because I understand you have an investment to make.
Right.
And if you're gonna make that investment, you gotta make sure you have enough time to get a return on your investment. At the same time, this board has to make sure that we're protecting the neighborhood over
Oh,
there.
absolutely.
You know,
I
and
agree.
that's,
I have no problems with that.
I don't remember your answer to this, what were you planning on for alcohol out there?
If there's any alcohol out there, it'll be aluminum or plastic. It's not gonna be in anything, it's gonna be only in fenced areas with no access to the public. Nobody could be sneaking anything out of fence or anything like that. There won't be anything, and I think most of the people probably won't even take it out there onto the volleyball area. It'll probably be, you know, if they come back into the actual beer garden. It'll be just the gate, there's a gate on the east end of the beer garden, that's where they'll enter the volleyball area, which will be a separate fenced area, so they're not gonna be commingled with people running back and forth.
yeah, I believe in the packet, there was a picture of it, was there not, the diagram? Actually, this is probably better, I hand this around. Yeah, this was in the packet downsized. Are there gonna be bleachers in there?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, is there gonna be any seating?
No, they'll be able to bring lawn chairs out there or something if they want, but, no, we're not gonna,
Yeah, this is the same thing that's in your packet, and you can have file.
really don't wanna have any fixed structures inside of there because of the way they run around and stuff, so. Other than the poles.
Chief, you have anything for this?
You can put a police team together.
Make those stipulations.
Right. Consider approving ordinance number
1242.
1242, granting an expanded special use permit for the volleyball pit at Pin and Tonics, 643 Dixie Highway, with the condition that it will close at 9 o'clock.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any other stipulations that we need to add?
I think the special use ordinance includes all the conditions of the original beer garden, with the exception of that time.
Right.
Any questions in motion? Roll call.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Whaling,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
There you go, Jack.
Thank you.
What we will do is I'll go and record that with the county, so it'll be recorded at some point in time, but all you need is, you need a building permit for your fence.
Right. That's right. What do you mean recorded with the county?
The special use permit, I record it with the property,
Oh, okay.
so it's recorded, it protects us and it protects you.
Okay.
So if you sell the building, it goes with the building.
Right. Thank you.
Consider an ordinance amending the zoning code pertaining to temporary signage in the village. PZC has held 3 workshops and a public hearing on proposed amendment to the codes to bring them to compliance with the U.S. Supreme Court's Gilbert's decision. This has been a lengthy process involving several stakeholder groups. Tim, do you wanna take the floor here?
Sure, how much do you want me to go over?
It all.
We'll get to Cole.
The Planning and Zoning Committee first met on this and batted around some ideas based upon this Gilbert decision that was rendered by the United States Supreme Court with a 9-0 decision, which they never do. Basically struck down every temporary sign ordinance in the entire country in, well, one fell swoop. Most people don't even realize that this is done still, and it was July of last year. So we got a little proactive on it, and the PZC has had several meetings, 3 of which attended, plus several other meetings before that. There's been a lot of time spent on this. Basically, there's only certain ways that you can regulate temporary signs. You can outright prohibit them, you can allow them, but you can't really make a lot of distinctions between them. So one of the justices, in their wisdom, which I'm being serious about that, not sarcastic, actually gave suggestions about ways that would be appropriate to differentiate between temporary signs. And so based upon that guidance, what we did is we kind of broke it up into a couple of different areas. One being residential districts, which encompasses your agricultural also. Then you have your business and industrial, we kind of lumped those together. And then we had some other just general restrictions. In the residential districts, and again, you can't say political signs or contractor signs or realtor signs, they're just temporary signs. So what we did in the residential district is we said we're going to, at least this is proposed again, going to allow 2 temporary signs up to a maximum of 6 square feet on each lot. So if you have your house for sale, you can have a sign up. If you had some HVAC work done, you can have it out there. If you support this guy or this girl for president, you can have it out there. If you're just generally unhappy with the governor of the State of the Union, you can put it out there. Whatever you want, up to 6 square feet. Then additionally, twice a year for up to 45 days, so in non-consecutive periods, you can have an additional 30 square feet of signage on that. That's meant to accommodate in particular, the political season so that people can still support who they want to, that free speech, but without allowing somebody to have that much signage on every lot all year round. Because that's, the idea is to still keep everything nice and looking good. So that's residential.
One comment there. Why 2 signs a lot? Well, you have a real estate sign, which is 3 by 6, I believe. And then you have these people that put these signs out, they make little political statements or what have you. A real popular one right now is Proud Union Home. Okay, that sign would be protected by this ordinance, it would be allowed. Whereas it's really, under the old ordinance, you could have said that type of sign is not allowed. However, we never really enforced it because someone is making a statement, no airport signs show up. We've had that in town, no airport, no Ileana. People want to put a no Ileana sign in their yard, I don't know, it's their property if that's what they want to do. So we're protecting that activity in residential property. Sorry.
No, so that's residential. Business, that took a while, but what we ended up kind of narrowing down on was 2 square feet of temporary signs is allowed for each linear foot of primary building that fronts a street, up to a maximum of 300 square feet. This keeps in line kind of what the current standard is or has been, along the main drag here and other places like that. There are some other exceptions that I won't go into the minutia of it, but like for the older part of downtown, allowing signs on the sidewalk where otherwise that'd be prohibited, allowing each business kind of their own signage, but not to exceed a certain amount. We then have some general restrictions, basically, if anything becomes a nuisance because of, you got these banners and they start getting worn out and they flap around, the zoning administrator can do something about that, so, they don't become a problem. It doesn't happen too often, but it does, and there's a mechanism to take care of that now. The last thing is that there was just some signs that just would not fit in those general categories. And so there was a special permit that we had before, so now we're calling it special events. And this kind of allows some of the other things that have been going on in town to continue to happen. So like the car cruise, it can be, up there for 4 months. But there's restrictions on it, so if it doesn't last for 4 months, it's gotta be, after 3 days after it's done, you gotta take the signs down, and no more than 30 days before the event starts. So it tries to accommodate some of those things, or a pancake breakfast, or this fundraiser, or whatever is gonna be done. It still allows for those things to happen without saying the car cruise, or a political sign, or this, or that, and getting into all those problems again. So that's kind of an overview. Again, the PZC did a lot of work on this, so did Gail and her group on it initially, so if there's any questions, I can certainly answer them, but hopefully that gives you at least a kind of an idea of where we've been and where we're going.
This is the most time you spent on a Beecher project in about 5 years, isn't it?
We met right after Thanksgiving last year, and it's been going all the way through.
George from PZC, anything to add?
No, I think we had a lot of good discussions about it. This this is pretty much, everyone voted in favor of what we ended up with, so. And we thought it was somewhat workable for the businesses, because we didn't want anything to, detract from them. We want to be able so they can advertise their stuff. So, we try to be reasonable about it.
And having attended the meeting, there was very little public comment about it. The chamber has already kind of looked at this and didn't have a lot of questions on it. So I think that speaks volumes about the work that was put in on the front end to make sure that this was, a good proposed legislative action.
Yeah, and I think too, a few little exceptions for downtown, it's good for the businesses. They're gonna be coming down there to try to help them out with that as well.
Nobody else any questions? I can make a motion for ordinance number 1243. Yes. Amending the zoning code pertaining to temporary signage in the village.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call.
Meyer,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Whalen,
Yes.
Aaron.
Yes. In the May 26th meeting, the PCC has been canceled due to a lack of agenda items, and that is my report.
And I too would like to thank planning and zoning and everybody else who was involved in this ordinance. I think we had a goal in mind, and I think we accomplished that goal. I think it was reasonable, proper. I think we were trying to make things more workable, but yet maintain the aesthetics of the village. So I too thank you for the board. Public Safety Committee, Trustee Coleman.
Yeah, Police Department monthly report is enclosed. Also, code enforcement monthly report is enclosed for your review. Church Road warning siren relocation update. Buddy, you wanna?
Well, it was supposed to be scheduled for this week. The problem that we're having is the weather, because of how deep they have to go. And we're gonna get another 4 days of rain here. I would imagine it's gonna get pushed off till next week unless they do it tomorrow.
Yeah, they
And I did
have it
not get a
scheduled
phone
for
call.
Thursday or Friday of this week, but you're
Yep.
right, if we get that big rain,
Yeah, you can imagine it, it'll be next week again.
of course, they won't be digging a retention pond either.
No, not at all. Well, they're not gonna do anything till we move it anyway. I talked to Chris over there, so he understands that.
How far does this have to move?
It's just moving from where it's at, 90 degrees over.
134 feet due east.
Chief, any comments?
Yes, our annual bicycle safety rodeo will be held Saturday, June 4th. Registration starts at 8:30 and will kick off at 9 o'clock, and light refreshments will be served.
Do you need volunteers or anything for that?
We could always use volunteers. We have about 13 stations to man to go through it. We utilize parents, we utilize the officers, and we have some volunteers. One from EastCom comes down also, but we can always use some extra help to be a judge.
What time?
8:30 is the registration. It kicks off at 9 o'clock.
Just noticed, Mr. Chairman, the mayor and I are scheduled to go to the fire district Thursday night and to the township on June 6th to present our intergovernmental agreement on the Beecher resident. So we're gonna go to those meetings and get them to sign off on it.
Is that it, Chief?
That's it, unless anybody had any questions on any of the reports.
That completes my report.
Public Works Committee, Trustee Basil.
Okay, the Water Department monthly report is enclosed for your review, along with the Sewer Department monthly report. It's also enclosed for your review. And the water billing register for the month of March and April is also enclosed for your review. Pump to billing rate is up to 70.73. Last year was 53.57. So we are really getting that respectable
And that was
area.
during flushing period too,
Yeah.
flush for, so.
Yeah, form ingrates.
Yeah, so hopefully we can get that 75 to 80 is our goal, that's what we want.
All right. Okay, consider authorizing the village president and the clerk to sign an agreement with Baxter and Woodman Engineers in the amount of $620,000 for the Phase 2 design and financial work needed for the IEPA low-interest loan to complete the rehabilitation of the Beecher wastewater treatment plant. Enclosed is a copy of this agreement, which has been discussed in previous meetings. The village has selected Baxter and Woodman for this work based on their prior knowledge of Beecher wastewater treatment plant, their expertise in the field of wastewater treatment, and their proven relationship with the IEPA in getting approvals for permits and loan documents.
Question, Ray. This EPA loan, we entered this contract with you, there is no requirements that we do an RFQ or RFP process for the engineer, is that
No.
correct?
No, I think they're not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Okay, so I make a motion for that effect? So I'd like to make a motion to consider authorizing the village president and clerk to sign the agreement with Baxter and Woodman engineers in the amount of $620,000.
There's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Second.
Any questions on the motion? Roll call.
Aaron's,
Yes.
Whalen,
Yes.
Coleman,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Meyer.
Yes.
Okay, Penfield Elm Birch Street water main update can be provided by the village engineer who will be at the meeting.
You guys have a memo in front of you, item 2 addresses that. Adding Elm Street to the project with the EPA loan did delay us a little bit. It's after Bob and I discussed it, and Greg and everybody involved, it is in the best interest of the village financially to do it that way, because I know that money was tight and you were moving the dollars around. So that probably put us back a few months with the EPA loan. As it sits right now, we're hoping for an October start and get it substantially completed. If that doesn't happen and the loan doesn't go through, we're gonna go for early spring. I think Jonathan made a very excellent point that he'd rather see construction go on when people are inside, their windows are closed, and they don't have to deal with the dust and the noise. So the amount of work that's done on it, it should be a 90, possibly 120-day project. But we can do it, you know, we don't want to do it in the height of summer, obviously. We don't want to do it at any consideration when the 4th of July festival's going on. So we're hoping we can get the loan approval and you know, get it out to bid in June and July, and possibly have the loan by October.
If we do a bid opening in mid-July, there are provisions to keep that number good till spring of 17. You have to put that in the bid document.
We have to present the bidding documents to the EPA as the final part of the loan. We have to show them the, you know, that this is what.
But they could sit on that for several months.
They,
So what do we have to do to preserve that number? We have to put in the bid that their number is good for a year?
their numbers are typically good. What we do is we stretch it out. Now, a normal construction project, we'll put 60 days, we'll put 120 on this one. And then we will, when we get near the 120 days, we've had to do this on a couple other jobs, we'll ask the contractor for a letter extending his prices for another 30 to 60 days. So we haven't, to my knowledge, we haven't yet had a contractor turn us down who wanted the project. You know, so that's kind of the situation that we're in right now. But we hope to get it going pretty quickly. We'll schedule send you guys the plans and specs, and we'll have our 90% review meeting with the superintendent and the staff, and make sure that we'll give you guys a week to take a look at it and go over it.
Thanks, Ray. All right, the Safe Routes to School Grant Project update to also be provided by the village engineer.
Okay, in the memo, we found out that the project, the low bidder was, and the project was awarded to P.T. Farrell of Joliet, Illinois, who's done a lot of projects in the area. And the pre-construction meeting has been scheduled for June 2nd at the District 1 office in Schaumburg. And we encourage somebody from the village to attend. It's not absolutely necessary. We'll represent you if you don't want to, because I know it's a little bit of a haul from here. But as soon as I find out the date, I'll email it to Bob, and you guys can make the decision on that.
All right, the Public Works Committee needs to go over projects and timelines. The committee met with the superintendent after the last board meeting to go over plans to get work completed over the coming summer months. How are we doing?
Well, everything's gotta be done by tomorrow, I think, or.
But
No, actually,
five
we have addressed a lot of, the major concerns, like I said, with the projects, just with, weather permitting, I don't see us, not having the ability to achieve our goals and continue on with our meter programs. I will say this, that mosquito spraying is, they had a problem with their machine for calibrating it, but it's scheduled for Wednesday to be sent out. So you're looking at spraying probably starting the following week, coming up here. Your street sign program, that is scheduled to, they're gonna start pulling and preparing for the concrete work, along with the rest of the concrete work at Fireman's Park next week. So that's kind of the big ones that we were looking at.
They started on Maxwell Street too, didn't they?
Yes, we
Maxwell
did,
Street
and
starts
yeah, we're tied in on Maxwell Street at Indiana Avenue, and they're working their way back, so it's, I would say where they're at right now is just a matter of digging and throwing pipe in and setting a catch basin, and then PT Farrell coming in, doing the asphalt work. And when they come in, we'll have them do the asphalt work for there. I'll get, like we said, on Cardinal Creek for that one little area, and there's one other area that
You mean Alpro?
I'm sorry, sir. But that's the plan for that.
How about the mulching at the playgrounds?
I'm just, I'm surprised, I don't know if we got something, I did talk to,
Tadpoles?
Mr. Schmidt, yeah, Tadpoles, and they said that should not even be a big deal. From what they did, it's just a matter of them coming in and dressing it up, so, he was gonna drop off a bid to us.
And how are we doing with the stumps?
That's been an ongoing thing, but we've been hitting them, we've had the chance, so, they've been diminishing. We've been working our way north to south, and, as long as weather cooperates, hopefully in the next week, should be on top of it.
Any other questions or comments?
Just one more, Ray had another update that I failed to put on the agenda. Ray, you wanna cover Penfield Street reconstruction?
Oh, for the Penfield,
Yeah.
sure. I'll go ahead and read this, and then if there's any questions. The STP funding increase will be discussed and voted on at the May 25th meeting. Bob, you'll be going to that?
Oh, I'll be here.
Okay, yeah, we were involved heavily in that. And the staff recommended to fund the project as requested to include culvert replacement, street lighting, and increase funding participation to 80/20. Preliminary engineering amendment to include a hydraulic study for the culvert replacement in process. So village board will be able to review this in June, and we're still we're targeting 2019 construction. That's what Tom Slattery gave me today, so.
What you call a culvert, we know as the bridge, just for clarification.
So at the next meeting, you guys will know a little bit more what the Will County Governmental League's actions were.
And there's a significant item in there for street lighting as well, decorative street lighting, if I recall, in that project.
Oh, you're not here tomorrow, right?
What's that?
Are you not here tomorrow, right?
I'm not here tomorrow, and the next day.
Do I not remember you having a conversation that we were going out and getting prices for, I know we had prices at one time to do all the parks, and like the Veterans Memorial and everything like that, and they came back way too high, but I thought I remember you
Yeah.
saying that we were gonna go out and get another price. No, am I wrong?
No, because it was just so outrageous from what because we had tadpoles for the depot and women's welfare. Yeah, I don't even know how you could even compete. I mean, if you would like to, I will go ahead. The only one other company I know that would probably give you maybe a reasonable price because of the manpower they have would be Desiderio, and that's, I could get a proposal for that.
The reason why I'm asking is I went down to the Veterans, the memorial, there's considerable amount of work that's gotta
Oh,
be
yeah.
done. And I don't know if even Beecher Rec would be able to finish the project all at one time, so if somebody can bring it into shape and then we can maintain it afterwards.
Let me pull out that old bid from Tadpoles and see, because we
Yeah.
bid it by components, and then we added it all up, and it was too much. If the mayor just wants a certain component of it done,
See,
we could afford just that. I gotta pull everything out.
I talked to him on, last Friday, he was out there mowing, MGM, and I had asked him about that, I said, you know, what do you think you would do? And he said he would, you know, think about giving us a tightening up, going in there and get you ready for everything. He says, but what I gave you was a pretty fair price for doing the whole thing. I said, well, I don't see that happening. But if you pull that up, I'll call Desiderio. And also, I did forget to say that the flowers are coming in this Thursday. And I mean, so they'll be up Thursday. With all the rain we're having, I think we'll be fine watering, but I need to discuss with you
Yeah, the
about,
flags are going up Friday, but the
Yeah.
street banners aren't gonna get here till next week.
okay,
So we're gonna have to hold off on street banners. We usually like to have them up for Memorial Day, but there were some businesses that didn't prove their proofs. So we had to wait on the order until all the businesses signed off on the proofs, and that was the delay. So
Oh.
next week they should be going up.
the only other question I have is, I know we have other issues there, but a starting time
We'll have to deal with that.
except for watering flowers, okay, in the next 2 days.
Another thing that just caught my mind on mowing, Jeff, that lot north of Waltz. I know we've hammered a lot of people for tall grass, but that lot hasn't been touched yet either. Now, Public Works has been mowing the parkway strip there, but not that big 3-acre lot. You want, which one I'm talking about?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think who usually mows that was.
Was Robbie.
Robbie was
Robbie
mowing
Tina.
that. I'll touch base with Aaron on that.
I'm sorry.
You okay for the veterans, we'll look into it a little bit, there's
Yes.
considerable amount of work to be done.
Definitely.
Okay, Economic Development, Community Relations, Trustee Bates.
Okay, consider an incentive package for a 5,000 square foot industrial building to be located in Trim Creek Business Park. This business constructs and installs hooded venting for commercial kitchens and wishes to build on lot number 1. This was the lot under consideration for the solar panels. The incentives that were discussed were as follows. No water or sewer tap-in fee. A building permit fee equal to the safe build fee, no administrative fee. 25% reimbursement of the village portion of the property tax for 5 years. There's no need for a formal motion. Just, what does the board think?
Just Bob, just to give you some background, Bob had a conversation with the property owner, and he asked what incentives could we offer, and those were the incentives he put on the table. At that point in time, Bob felt it was necessary to bring it before the court and make sure there's a consensus that we would approve that offer. I think it's a little late for that, since we already told the property owner that we would do that. And I don't think that would even know if the deal is closed, you know, so, but Bob felt an obligation to at least tell you that this was on the table.
And I corresponded with each trustee by email, but at the same time, I like in the minutes of the meeting that this was discussed. So 3 years from now, some new board member would say, oh, how did that get approved? We got it in the minutes of the meeting. Yeah.
Any discussion on it? Everybody okay with it?
Okay. Committee meets with the downtown businesses to discuss improvements to the Gould Street area. This meeting was scheduled for today, this morning actually, and I will provide an update. We talked about a lot of different things with the owners, and I think the consensus of the business owners. We were thinking about making it like a boardwalk and using lumber, or actually composite lumber, and building it out like a decking area over the concrete, and make it look like a boardwalk, basically. And I think the owners really like that idea.
we're basically returning it back to what it looked like back in the late 1800s.
That's what I was gonna say, because I think there's even a wood sidewalk underneath the
Underneath the
concrete.
concrete.
Now we're going to go over the concrete with another
Right, so
composite.
you're going back.
There's a lot of advantages to it. We can run wiring and cabling underneath the deck, between the deck and the cement, if we wanted to put lights up. We could get rid of the stoops to the buildings and actually bring the deck up to the floor of the building, so people can walk right in without having to go over a stoop. That solves a lot of ADA issues for them. We can get rid of those old stairs that are drooping and actually build the stairs out of composite that matches the boardwalk, and then have bump outs where people could actually walk out around the stairway, maybe put benches there. So there's some advantages to that. Right now, we have just a big yellow X on each parking spot next to the stairs, and we would just take those X'd out parking spots and put bump outs in there. And then we would have some kind of fascia board underneath the decking facing the street. Believe it or not, I'm finding a lot of different ideas for that, you know.
I can say that I was at that meeting, and Bob was doing a very good job of spending every bit of that $40,000.
This we will spend, and I don't know, in all honesty, if we can do it for 40 with this
Right.
composite material. We may have to go back to a womanized lumber, but we'll find
This
out.
composite's very expensive.
Yes.
It's 3 times the amount of.
Yes, but it will last you 20 years, you don't have no maintenance, other than maybe power washing.
Business owners were real happy with the idea too.
Yeah, yeah. So we're meeting again in 2 weeks with the plans and hopefully to move forward.
Can we open the businesses before we do this?
I think the one
One maybe.
June?
Yeah, one was in June, one wanted to be open before the 14th, I'm sure we can make it.
It'd be nice if they were.
Well, we pledged to them, we want them to work together. The last time, and Marcy was very eloquent explaining to them, you know, the last time, the businesses weren't getting along, and when they don't get along, you can't get anything done down there. So we encouraged them to form a little association, meet amongst themselves. If they wanted to have a farmer's market down there, or a street dance, all the businesses get together and say, we want the road closed. Don't get an objector saying, well, that's gonna hurt my business, you know, work together and come to the village with solutions and ideas. So I think it's positive.
Yeah, it was real positive today, so.
The one thing they mentioned we can do right away is the parking barriers along the old Will County lumber. They said they're busted up, they're turned over, and we're gonna have to go over there and fix those. You know, clean the area up a little bit.
All right, the Vincent's Bike Trail update. I reached out to the county board member, Bob Howard, about the future of this trail and securing the easements necessary for the installation. The 2 routes identified are the same as those back in 2008, but to no avail due to the lack of cooperation with the property owners. There still is an impasse there. But I'm gonna meet with Bob. He's gathering information, and he's gonna call me. We're gonna sit down and go over the plans to try to either get some funding or at least get it back on the books. Because I don't think it's even being considered anymore, so that's where I'm at with that. I reached out to, like I said, Congresswoman Robin Kelly, there's no funds, LG Sims. I'm trying to touch all bases, but, so, and you know the states and where we're at with the state, so it's hard to get funding right now. So who knows, maybe it'll all open up, but that's where I'm at with that.
Is this the one going down the old railroad track?
Vincent, yeah, the railroad track. Yeah. Bob gathered me a bunch of information, so we'll see where it goes.
Still got a problem with property owners?
Yes, I believe so,
There's 2 owners that
yeah.
need to agree.
The Forest Reserve brochure update. Staff hopes to have the 2 different brochures. Well, we had the one, and then they gave us the other one here, which the staff did an excellent job of this brochure. One's for special events and attractions, and the other's for picking up necessities while camping at Goodnell's Grove. This is our partnering with the Forest Reserve District for mutual promotions. I know the Forest Reserve is very happy with that, with the brochures, so. Any comments on that? They're nice, they're really nice.
Thanks to Jeanette for putting this together.
Jeanette, you did an excellent job.
Very, very nice.
You should have gotten the other one in your inbox last week.
Yes. Okay, the Penfield-Dixie wayfinding sign. The sign has been relocated in the last month, and the Village Hall panel will be removed and replaced with a directional arrow that says businesses. We ordered it today, Bob? Yes. And it'll be replaced as soon as it comes in.
Yeah, question came up, we're putting up that little one on Gould Street, and that one still says Village Hall with an arrow on it. And the problem with that sign, it's all one piece, so what do we do with that sign? Do we take it up to Daycab and maybe you can put a sticker over it, or do we just paint black over that?
I mean, you can, I would probably suggest having Chris just make a sticker for it and just put it over the front of it. Because the sticker that they have on the wayfinding signs here, those are all just decals. Because that's all I did was pull the arrow off of it when I was sitting over here and removed it. Probably your least expensive,
Mm-hmm.
unless you wanna buy another one and put that one someplace else.
No, let's just plan on
We
taking
need
it up
that
to Chris,
40,000,
take
right?
the sign up to Chris Vesti and say, get rid of Village Hall and put businesses there, match it as close as you can.
Okay,
I think it's a two-sided sign.
yeah, that shouldn't be a
Then
problem.
we'll put it up on Gould Street again.
I think if I remember, when we put it up on Gold Street, didn't we discuss that maybe a better location would be on Woodward?
Yes, we did, and I agree with that.
Doesn't matter.
Cause I think it got cagged by the buses or the trucks coming out of Hamilton's, which is one of the problems where it stuck out, and it made that corner.
Try to Woodward.
Okay.
Okay, Commonwealth Edison released its 2015 annual report to the municipalities. The public portion of this report is enclosed for your review. That ends my report.
Thank you. Okay, item number one, as I indicated last time, trustee Whaling isn't here, so we couldn't have a motion to bring this back on the table. And Scott, since you were here, there was an easier way to do this, and of course I complicated matters by trying to do it the right way. We did it the proper way by tabling it and then bringing it back up again, which we're going to do tonight. The easier way that would have been just simply everybody withdraw the motion, and then basically we'll refer it to committee, and then committee will work it out. The intent was that night, since you weren't here, was just to simply inform everybody that we were recontacted by them and negotiations were going on. And these were some of the things that were discussed. There actually wasn't a motion needed at all that particular night. So if someone would make a motion and untable, the motion that was made at 2 meetings ago for the memorandum of understanding with Bernard Welding.
I will make that motion.
I'll second it.
And there's a second. Okay, now let's take roll call voting.
Meyer,
Yes.
Basil,
Yes.
Coolman,
Yes.
Wheeling, Aaron's.
Yes.
And then I believe trustee Whalen, you made the motion, and it was seconded by trustee Coleman.
Or was it that way around?
I had Coolman, Aaron, in my notes.
Okay, that's fine.
Coleman first.
Did Coleman and Aaron, then how do we get to you with this thing? Anyways, whoever made the motion, will you withdraw your motions? Everybody just say yes, we got it all covered.
Yes.
Yes, I would go.
Motion off the table.
Now it's going to be referred to Public Works Committee,
And then we'll
so it
work
won't
it
come
out.
back to you until Public Works Committee deals with it.
Okay, we had on the lobby day in Springfield, and if you remember, I reported that 2 weeks earlier, we were down at another lobby day. Within that 2 weeks' time, everybody noticed another change in the weather, more upbeat, more positive. Everybody we talked to seemed to be more positive will occur. But it's like a roller coaster ride that the very next day or 2 days later, we heard from other sources that don't believe everything you're hearing and seeing in the news. It's positive, they may get something done, so on and so forth. But then following day, then we did hear something in the news that they are meeting, so bottom line is they got to the end of the week to try and get something done with the budget, we'll see what happens. The governor, as the news reported, the governor has relaxed some of his turnaround agenda items, like I reported last time, and, we'll see what happens.
The good news with the budget crisis is they're so focused on this problem, they're not passing legislation that affects us right now, which is a good thing. So there's very few bills out there that are being considered because they're bogged down in this fiscal crisis. That's the good news. The bad news is if they don't get a budget done, we're gonna be in the same pot as we were in last year, where your video gaming, your 911, and your MFT money is gonna be withheld, but there's no continuing appropriation for those monies. So, what we're hearing, this is, you just got a little Springfield, is they're gonna squeeze you a little bit and not pay you for about 4 or 5 months, and then once the November elections get close, and if there isn't a budget adopted, in September or October, they'll pass a appropriation ordinance, and then we will get our MFT money and our gambling, or video gaming money. But that's the plan for now. That's what it sounds like.
Two other items, and hold your hats for this one. The Iliad Expressway, they may not be dead. It's sad for the people that thought it was dead and their property is out there, and they're gonna be held in limbo again. There's still gonna be some discussions down the road. It may not be for a year, may not be for two years. If you saw the article in the newspaper, Indiana paid to fix the.
They paid a defense attorney to defend the lawsuit.
Our state couldn't do it, Indiana could, and they did, and they were successful, and now there is discussions again about the Iliad Expressway. Also, to our surprise, we have not heard a darn thing about the airport, and lo and behold, don't be surprised, within a year or two, you're going to hear about the South Suburban Airport again, because it was discussed out in Springfield. So neither one of those items are dead, and once again, I feel for the people that own the property, and, bottom line, if you're gonna build it so these people can move on with their lives. If you're not gonna build them, tell them, so at least they can save their homes or whatever. But, so don't be surprised if you begin to hear those two items pop up down the road. Hunter's Chains West Pond HOA, we've taken this several times, and, as I indicated, I put a hold on the attorney doing any more research on this until we decide what to do and how to do it. We did come up with a price to possibly mow the pond so many times per year, and as indicated there, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Prairie Crossings, I'm at Prairie Crossings pond. So we found out that it's only gonna cost like $1,500 per year to mow the lots, so I'm at item number 4, I skipped one by mistake. We were gonna form the HOA, or we're gonna do a special assessment area to maintain that lot, Prairie Crossings South lot. So the question becomes is, do we want the attorney to continue doing the research for the SSA, homeowners association, or just do we want to bite the bullet and just eventually maintain the pond ourselves? And again, since I skipped, I'll repeat myself, it's the Prairie Crossing South Pond, so it's between Orchard and First Street. What's the thoughts?
Isn't it too late to do this? I mean, aren't there other properties out there that
If you
have been built?
If you remember what my thought was, and it was only my thought, that there were 32 lots, I think we counted, that actually surround the pond or the retention area itself. There are no homes on there now. So it's still possible, either, I believe you have to negotiate with the attorneys or the property owners, which is a bank, or we just do it SSA, which there's no negotiation, but it has to go from them.
Yeah,
Okay.
and public hearings and.
Public hearings and that,
different
or
things.
since we found out it's not really gonna cost that much per year, don't worry about it right now. The bank will continue to mow it because they've been out there regularly. And then with and when we acquire the property, we just maintain it.
There's a window of opportunity now if you wanted to do an SSA or a homeowners association, because once those lots sell to all these different owners, it's gonna be a lot more difficult to legally compel them to take the pond over. If you're gonna make them take the pond over, now's the time. If we delay, and we can delay, we could just table this and wait and see what happens. Down the road, it'd be a lot more difficult legally to compel an HOA to be formed. So, in light of what we did with the Hunter's Chase West Pond, which we were gonna talk about, do we just wanna take over this pond?
If you remember originally, the original design, I was at that public hearing prior to my life here. The promise was that the businesses, a couple businesses along Route 1, there is some condos or townhomes that were supposed to be included in that, and some outer lots where there are homes already built. None of that was recorded, so you're not gonna get anything out of those homes, so it's not fair to try and do anything with homes or businesses still on it. They already said no. Okay, so right now, like Bob is saying, there's a lot of opportunity because there are no homes on these lots that we're talking about. And now would be the time to do it.
I don't think it's a bad idea to do the HOA. I mean, $50 a year is nothing. Just my 2 cents, rather than take over another pond, and just take over all the ponds.
The only thing about an HOA is there's no guarantees that that money's gonna show up.
Again, HOAs have a bad taste. I don't know if there's only one, I think, that's working very well. And we seem like we've had problems with HOAs all along.
And the problem with that one in particular is if you set up the HOA just strictly to have a fee of $50, $75, $100 a year just for this pond maintenance, somebody can go, no.
Not pay.
And then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and we're not in the HOA business. And then we'd have to have an enforcement mechanism against them again. So it's one of those, you know, it's a great idea to have HOAs maintain these things, but when they're not set up, or they're not funded, or they're just not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you know, they're public improvements, it's part of the stormwater system, it falls back here. Yeah.
Well, we don't legally own the property right now, the
Correct.
bank does, and the bank is voting it.
Absolutely.
So when it comes time for them to transfer the property to somebody, whether that's us or to an HOA, it would be their decision. If they come to us, I would try to squeeze them for some money to maintain the pond for a couple more years. So by the time the village really starts paying to maintain the pond, it would be probably 10 years from now.
If I understand it correctly, if whoever owns the property now, they sell all the lots, but they don't give us that property, we have no obligation, it still falls back into the existing property owner, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And then it's probably a tax sale issue after some point in time when they don't pay the, you know, at least the storm fee on it.
Does mowing even qualify for a special assessment? You know, special assessments are for infrastructure, right?
Could be a special service area.
And
probably.
maintenance, so it could. It's just, it's a lot of work and money to set up for $1,500 a year.
And then you have to record them. I mean, you gotta, there's 32 lots. I mean, that's a lot of work.
And by right, Scott, it should be all 66. Because all their water
Supposed to be
goes
the
into
whole
it.
phase.
And then you got the townhomes and the 2 commercial pieces which should pay. They all should technically pay because all that water goes there.
And that initial bill that they wanted to give us was something like $8,000 a year or $10,000 a year, which was ridiculous. But that's about how, you know, first it wasn't recorded, and second they came back and asked for voluntary payments, and it was an absolutely ridiculous amount of money.
You're talking about a pond. This is not a pond.
It's dry pond.
It's
It's
dry
dry.
pond. Right.
So what's your pleasure? Or just simply wait?
I would say that if you don't want to create the issue, you wait and see what happens. We don't take action and say we'll accept it. Because I've been to the bank and run over here with the title and say, here it is. I would just like to, as long as we had a discussion on it, and we know which direction we're heading, but let's ride that horse as long as we can. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I think if there's any way possible we can get this done and stone before anybody else buys that property, we'd be better off. Rather than just sit and do nothing, because if we sit and do nothing and all of a sudden people start buying those lots, they're buying these lots without anything there, and then we're gonna impose something thereafter, so if we're gonna do it, I think we should.
No, if the village is gonna assume it,
Yeah,
then we don't need to do anything.
okay. I understand.
And what are we talking as far as dollar amount to go with the special assessment? I mean, you're talking a lot of money and you know, you can mow a lot of grass for
I bet you'd probably be at least 10 grand.
at least,
There's a lot of work that goes into that, then all the publication costs, and you have to have certified this and certified that, it's just a huge expense. And the HOA route is not, mean, you can set it up and record it in the bank, so they'd be willing to do that, but then you have to have somebody that's setting it up, then collecting the fees and making sure it's getting done. And unless you have somebody in those 32 lots that's really interested in making sure that that's getting done, it doesn't happen.
And we don't have any jurisdiction over there. I mean, we do the end result, but to motivate the homeowners association.
Other than apply to subdivision which says the pond shall be maintained by nature way. Says that right on the plat, but there's no.
We don't, and I don't wanna have any misunderstanding here, we don't have to do anything about it. The problem is though, it's part of our stormwater system, and we're ultimately gonna get the calls, and it's ultimately gonna fall back here, so it's trying to be a little bit proactive on this and see which way to go.
Yeah, if you remember, it was all prompted by the other pond that we took over. And it's our stormwater system, and we could end up with this anyways, and the attorney was working on it, and we were bugging the attorney for quite a while, and, bottom line is just, we wanna make sure we're in the right direction to bug them. If we don't wanna do anything, then we'll stop bugging them. So, we need some direction to go.
We have bugged.
We have bugged them.
You know,
It's up to you guys.
1,500 a year is not an extraordinary amount of money to be able to mow a pond. I guess my concern, and it's probably beyond the scope of this meeting, is down the road with other subdivisions, if we're taking over ponds and we really don't have a funding mechanism to mow every pond everywhere that ever gets built. That's just my thought for the future. Taking
Yep.
one pond is fine,
That's
but
why we were doing
this
this.
just turns into a huge animal after a while when you start having multiple ponds to take care of, and that's the part I'm not excited about.
What's your suggestion?
On this one, take it over when the time comes. Whether it's at a tax sale, whatever, you let the bank keep taking care of it for now.
The reason this happened is this property is already in the village.
Right.
So there's no annexation agreement which states unconditionally what has to happen.
And you went through a couple of owners, and
Yeah.
we had one owner that was ready to do it, and then they did a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and then started talking with the bank, finally got through those people and got to the right people, and they said, yeah, we'll be willing to look whatever you send our way, but if it restricts it too much, we're not gonna record it. And you don't have any leverage on them on this one.
It was the old Lenz farm, it was annexed when we did Lenz Phase 3, back in the early 90s. And that was a condition the board placed on Lane, if we're gonna do Phase 3, you gotta bring the whole farm in, so it was annexed at that time. But then when it got developed, it went under our subdivision ordinance, and there's no annexation agreement to back up what the village and the developer agreed to. It was done straight out of the book. And there's nothing in the book about who owns the pond.
My problem is that you sit and wait to start buying these lots, not knowing that we possibly could do something down the road. I think we'd be better off setting it up now than waiting.
If you wanna set it up, and that's what I'm saying.
But we're not gonna keep it.
Yeah, but for $1,500 a year on this one, I'd let the bank keep doing it, at least my suggestion is, and then ultimately you take it over whenever that point in time is, and hopefully it's well into the future. The bank just keeps mowing it. And then I like your
And if the lots
suggestion
don't
of,
sell in 5 years, and the lots are still sitting there, you can still do it, I guess, but.
I like your suggestion of if the bank wants to give it over to us, then that's fine, we need 10 grand, 15 grand or whatever to put in our maintenance fund. Similar to what Hunter's Chase is doing, at least with their funds there, that gives you several years of taking care of that.
Sit tight for now.
Just one question, if we were to proceed with this SSA or whatever, do we pay the legal fees involved, or do we have to assign that to those 32 lots?
It depends on which way you do it.
But, yeah, there's no really paying taxes out there right now. anyway. So you could be out 10 grand and I would have watched you 5 years.
That's why I said on this one, I mean, if you were talking about multiple ones or the cost was greater, then there may be a cost benefit to it. It's just, so we've been trying to look at this and skin it a different way, and there's just not
But
enough.
I will agree with Marcy, the policy of the past was, don't take time. It's a liability and a maintenance headache. But I don't know how,
It's still
this
true,
one
though.
slipped through the cracks. Yeah.
See, that's what happened. There's an unusual case here, so we can go back and say, yeah, you're right, but this is what happened here. In the long run, we got shafted.
Yeah, And it's not the first pond we maintain. We maintain Lane's Phase 3 pond, we maintain Lions Park. That's a 5-acre pond, that's outside of town, so it's not precedent. Hunter's Chase East Pond, that's ours. Waltonstead Park Pond, that's ours.
Pretty soon Hunter's, the way,
Hunter's West
Hunter's
is gonna
West
be
is gonna
ours.
be our pond, so.
So it says
I
we're
mean, it's
taking
not
over
what
the
we're gonna
pond
do in the
system.
future, it's what we're having to go back on right now. You know, it hasn't worked out the way it was supposed to.
Right. And like I said, my opinion was that this is part of our stormwater system anyways. I don't understand how somebody else pays for our stormwater system. And that's just my opinion. It's
Now,
like,
Yeah.
I am not advocating this, but I know there's towns out there that accept these ponds, they put a cyclone fence around them, and they don't maintain them. And that's their policy, and I don't wanna see that either, but that's what they do, they fence them, they fence the hole in, and they let the weeds grow.
okay, sit there for right. I apologize, let's go back to number 3. I'll start out right again. Hunter's Chase West Pond HOA, and I'm gonna do this right. Bob, take it.
They've agreed, we've discussed this in the past, they came to us wanting to know if the village would accept that one pond. The HOA exists solely to maintain this little half-acre pond they got, that's located on the south end of the subdivision. And the board said, yeah, we'll take it, and their board just met 2 weeks ago, they only have one meeting a year, and they agreed to convey the pond to the village and all of their assets, which was, at that time, was about $7,000 in cash, on or around October 1st, so they will maintain it for the rest of this year. Then we would take ownership of the pond by title and the $7,000 escrow account. And that account we can use to either maintain the pond or for any purpose we see fit. You know, if Buddy needs to buy a new mower, we can buy a mower with it, but it would become ours, the pond. It's a wet bottom pond, and I think all they're doing is cutting around the wet bottom pond, and honest with you, we've been removing the trees out of the pond anyway, because those people had no means of doing that. So we've been over there cutting the trees out anyway. So that's where we're at with that little pond, and they're happy, those people out there are thrilled. Am I right?
You did a better job explaining it than I did.
Okay, but just to let you know, they've accepted our offer to take over the pond, and then we'll work toward that this fall.
Okay. What I would ask now is that for a motion to go into executive session to discuss land acquisition and personnel. When we come back, there may be some motions to be made.
And who would you like in the room for the
The attorney.
session? Just the attorney?
Just the attorney.
Motions after the,
I need to do the executive session first. So is there a motion for executive session?
I'll make that motion.
second.
There's a second. Roll call.
Meyer,
Yes.
Basil,
Yeah.
Coleman,
Yes.
Whaling,
Yes.
and
Yes.